It's a great day to play, everybody! Welcome on into the channel, yeah. Whether it's your first time here or you are returning to us, thank you so much for being here with us today. You are loved, you are appreciated, and you are always welcome here in this channel. Now, for those of you who have been following us down our BTS journey, earlier today, you would have seen that I did the first Spring Day explanation video. That one was by Bulletproof Vibes. And then I had already agreed to do the second one that people had recommended, which is the one by Italian Army. I took a little bit break in between them just to make sure that I had some time to recuperate and recover from the first one. You can check that out up here. I'll have it linked if you want to see the first one as well and you haven't seen it yet. But I think that it's really important to understand it and to get kind of a different view from both of them. Again, your comments have been so amazing. I know a lot of people were like, you may not even want to watch this one if you got that emotional from the first one, or at least not on camera. And I am fully okay with showing my emotions on camera. Part of what I want to make sure that we do in this channel, part of what we do is we raise money for charities in this channel, a lot of them being mental health charities. We've raised over $20,000 now in the last year. And I think that it's important for content creators sometimes to be able to show that vulnerability, to show people that it's okay, that like we feel that too, and like it's okay to be vulnerable. And so that's what I try to do here. So even if it's hard, I definitely want to have this experience with all of you, and not on my own. So we're going to try to get through this. This is just like the video says, the video may include some potentially sensitive content. So please make sure that if you can't handle really sensitive content, this may not be the video for you. You can always leave a like and a comment and then just skip the video itself to show that you support. But I do want to put that out there right away that there's going to be some sensitive material in here today. Again, thank you all so much. Thank you all, Army, for being here. Thank you for all the new people that have come on that may not have ever been exposed to BTS before that are watching this video and are getting exposed to them. I appreciate you guys as well. I know that I'm just baby Army right now, but I'm fastly growing and just loving more and more of them every single day. So without further ado, we're going to get into this. The one thing that I want to say is I know that she puts her own translations down there, but she also put them in the closed captions. I'm going to have the closed captions on so I can put them up higher so people that want to read it can also read it, because a lot of the subtitles get cut off at the bottom with the way that things are. So you might see a little bit of both of them on there. I will be pausing a lot because I'm going to be reading it out loud again for people that maybe don't want to read it or that it's too small for them to read. I'm also going to be reading it out loud. So we're probably in for a long one today, but let's do it. Let's do it. I have the tissue box ready. So, all right, first thing here, she says, I apologize if there are errors in English sub. I tried my best. And thank you so much for Italian Army for putting this together as well. Welcome to my channel. Today we analyze together BTS Spring Day MV. Spring Day is the title track of the new repackaged album Wings, You Never Walk Alone. If you look closely, you can see the album logo consists of 4 yellow ribbons. Interesting. The yellow ribbon is a universal symbol. You can also find it on WhatsApp. It can mean several things, but mostly associated with those who await the return of a loved one. It belongs to a category of awareness ribbons used to express support of civil causes and campaigns. In particular, in South Korea, it has been used as a symbol in the memory of the victims of the MV Seoul disaster that occurred on April 16, 2014, led to the death of 304 people, mostly students, on a school trip. BTS have recently made a donation to the parents of the victims. There's more about this later. There would be much to say on the accident, in particular on the unacceptable behavior of the ship's crew and Coast Guard, or about the corruption and negligence of the government and the press, and I'll bring most serious events related to Spring Day MV. Look at the opening scene. V is in a train station in Korea, which is no longer in operation, but he kneels, putting his ears on the tracks to hear the train coming. If we listen, however, we can hear the sound signal of the ship. Woo. I just assumed that was the sound of a train before, but you wouldn't hear like, oh man. Alrighty, we're a minute in. Soon after, the camera follows an imaginary train on the empty tracks. The train ferry will never come, and V will end up sadly walking in the middle of the rails. V's scene represents the feelings of relatives and friends of the victims. They're waiting for the return of their loved ones as if nothing had happened. It says on April 11th, Daeyoon's mom visited Pangmok Harbor. But also they're long on her demand of recovering the ferry, which is still in the abyss along with the bodies of the 9 missing until some time ago. All right, she said she was unable to stay home in Anson where the thought of her daughter still being underwater. The first words of the song are I miss you. While Jimin is framed watching the sea, later you can see him with the shoes on the beach. Look how the clothes he wears are ruined. The scene, therefore, refers to the clothes of the victims, but those lost at sea and those the shoes you are seeing. Left on the pier is a tribute to the days immediately following the tragedy. And here we come to the scene in the laundry. Jimin holds within the shoes representing a friend who's gone. I didn't see that before. The clothes symbolize the victims, and the portholes of the washing machine resemble the portholes of a ship. I never caught that. Somebody put that in the comment about that they represented the portholes, and then it says "Don't forget" on it. I never caught the porthole thing. I never caught it. So even the washing machine account for the fairies, and the clothes are the people trapped inside. The drum term capsizing just like the seawall did. Listen to what the lyrics are in these scenes. Running zigzag loosens the lashings for containers, and turning to the left then to the right makes the ferry to list more, so easy to tip over. And this is what they were talking about. For those of you, I mean, obviously many of you know about it, but one of the things that I had read that wasn't mentioned, at least in the first documentary series, was that um the ship was far overweight, and that the actual captain of the ship, who wasn't on board that day, warned the company and was like saying like, we can't do this, we can't operate this way, and like they even threatened to fire him over this. And like there was a bunch of alterations and things that were made to the ship that like were not approved. And I think it was like that it was approved for, it was like less than 1,000 tons, and like at one point it was like 6,825 tons or something like that. And even that day, they didn't even have enough ballasts, and it was it's crazy like how all of this got missed. Please stay there a little longer. Ugh. Okay. So these are actual footage from the ship. Stay where you are and stay still. It refers to the senseless order that was continuously transmitted to passengers. Hold on, I'm gonna go back just a little bit. I want to see that. Don't stand up from where you are, and let me move these up a little bit. Never move. Stay still. Don't move. If you move, it's more dangerous. More dangerous. Don't move. Now this is on CNN. It said at this point in time, it said 25 dead, 270 missing after ship sinks. It would have been enough only to jump into the sea to save themselves. That's like, I think the thing that was like so frustrating to me as I was reading the full story and the full article was that like they have they had timestamps. Like literally, it's so hard. If you can make it through the Wikipedia article, I'll have it listed again, but they literally have the timestamps of like like, it was, like, 8:50 something or 8:40 something where, like, they first realize that the ship is listing, they call it in, and, like, within minutes, like, they realize that it's gonna list, and then, like, they start telling the passengers to stay where they are. And then it literally is like almost a half an hour that they continue to reiterate that message to stay where they are, even after the ship starts taking on water. And then by the time that they like are told that they're told that they need to start evacuating people because they didn't follow protocol, then they tried to attempt to tell people, but like most of the stuff on the ship wasn't functioning at that point in time, so they couldn't even get the message out. And at that point in time, water had already started to get in the ship, so like people couldn't even get like it would have been like if you saw Titanic where, like, they try to like, swim through it to get to the upper levels, like, that was what was already happening. It's just it's so frustrating, like, that they, like, told them over and over again to stay in place.
Stato saltare in mare per salvarsi. Solo in questi oblò che
Only the
vengono incontrati
portholes which are framed.
vicino sono stati aggiunti degli
Stickers with
avesi con
instruction have been added, which
istruzioni
don't
dove
forget
non a
is the
caso
only
figura
legible
fra tutte
sentence.
leggibile Don't Forget. Non dimenticare è uno degli
This is one of the most used slogans to remember tragedies.
slogan più usati per ricordare le tragedie, ma nel caso del naufragio
But in this case, it is a special meeting. This was one of the quotes. And I'm just gonna keep moving this around, guys, so you can so you can see it. Grown-ups are constantly telling us to forget and cheer up, but we will remember our friends just like us. Please don't forget them.
del Seawall è un messaggio particolarmente significativo, perché alle famiglie delle vittime e ai ragazzi sopravvissuti fu più volte ripetuto
Oh, wristband.
di accettare e dimenticare l'accaduto. Guardate ora questa foto.
Now look at this picture. It shows one of the divers in charge of recovering the bodies of the victims inside the airlock.
Incaricato di recuperare I corpi delle vittime dentro la camera di decompressione. L'oblò non vi ricorda qualcosa?
The porthole does not remind you of something.
E quest'altra scena
And in this scene, which Jean inserts the coin to start the washing machine, clearly refers to the economic interest in corruption. Negligence and corruption a cause of seal sinking, that were the real causes of the accident. Very tragedy, a righteous and overdue rage of corruption, the Sewell disaster has placed an entrenched bureaucratic practice in the crosshairs. To make you understand this in the following scenes, I have to take a short break to explain some of the dynamics of the tragedy. Okay, I was gonna stop because there was stuff to add to that of how it got to that point. I was gonna stop and say that, but it sounds like she's gonna go over that here. So, the sinking of the MV Sewell was caused by the excessive weight due to illegal modifications made to the ship. Transportante tre. Oh, that's not. The sinking of the MV Sewell was caused by excessive. Okay. Which had anyhow obtained a circulation license. Some members of the government have been accused of having financial interests in the company that owns the ferry. Yeah, so this is what I was talking about. So, like, this was the day, I believe this is the day of where it's the 987 tons, and then the actual reported on the day was 3608, but, like, the max capacity they had, like, before, it was up to, like, 60, I think it was 6,825 tons, and then, like, they forced them to bring that down. So it was even worse before they had fixed it. The Sewell has sunk, so has the park administration. Some members of the government have been accused of having financial interest in the company that owns the ferry. The investigations were conducted in a way that lacked real transparency. The Sewell has sunk, so has the park administration. And many of the real culprits have gone unpunished, those trying to hide the truths of the real criminals. Some of the most serious responsibilities weigh on the Coast Guard. The Coast Guard once arrived on the wreck after rescuing the crew and the captain, who by law had the responsibility of the passengers' safety. The Coast Guard did nothing, merely circled around the sinking ferry. Only took care to prevent the civilian boats. came to the rescue from approaching the
Si
sinking
premurò
ferry.
soltanto di impedire alle imbarcazioni civili accorse in aiuto di avvicinarsi.
Control the fishing boats, make them retreat. Earlier in the afternoon, when the civilians were trying to smash the windows and save more people, the police were stopping them. You should help us and reveal this truth.
Nessuno dei soccorritori si
None of the
interposto
rescuers entered the ship or broke windows to free those that were trapped inside.
ruppe le finestre per liberare chi era
Oh my god. You could literally see them in the ship trying to break the windows.
intrappolato dentro.
However, it was civilian fishing boats that saved passengers who hadn't escaped yet. In the end, most of the survivors were rescued by fishing boats able to get close. I'm trying to read both of them because there's stuff on the bottom and the top. At this urgent moment, the Blue House keeps demanding videos of the scene so they can report to the president. Meanwhile, the ship continued to sink. Until a few hours later, it became impossible to recover passengers without diving equipment. Nevertheless, the press, manipulated by the government, did not want to lose electoral consensus. The Joint Task Force has mobilized 650 personnel, and they reported false news to reassuring the nation, and tried to approach the scene about 40 times. This is what's on the news. So this is what they were saying at the time. But it's not true, is it? No. He said no. The few journalists who came to the site were fired. Save my kid. Somebody suffered censorship and pressure from the government. Save our kids, media awaken, awaken, awaken. In this shooting, you can see that the Coast Guard prevented and even sabotaged the recovery operations of experienced volunteers. This is what should be on the air. Oh my god. See how this looks? I don't think this just broke. It must have been cut. They're saying the weather's getting worse and it's not safe for divers. But it's good enough for us to dive. There's like a part right before that. Alright. What do you mean? How come they can't enter the water? Civilians say they can enter water, but the Coast Guard says they cannot. What are the Coast Guard doing now? They were doing nothing at all. So you can imagine anger, frustration, helplessness of victims, relatives who rush to the scene, knowing that their kids, which could still be alive thanks to air pockets, were dying because of the insensate inaction of those who had to save them. Now let's return to the scene in the laundry room where the clock strikes 9:35. Between 9:30 and 9:45 a.m., communication equipment of Seoul stopped working, and the crew was rescued while passengers were left to their fate. And we can see Suga sitting on a pile of clothes that is identical to the installation persons of the French artist Christian Boltanski that you are seeing.
dell'artista francese Christian Boltanski che state vedendo.
It represents people who have left us.
Nel video, I vestiti
In the
sono
MV, the
circondati
clothes
dallo scuro
are surrounded by darkness, which reminds us of the depths of the
appunto gli
sea.
abissi del mare. In quest'altra scena
In
possiamo
this scene, we can notice attached to the carousel dozens of yellow
attaccati alla
ribbons.
giostra decine di nastri gialli. Qui abbiamo
This is another
un'altra
proof
prova
the
che
MV
come
refers to the
nel teorema
sinking of
faccia
MV
riferimento al
seawall.
naufragio del Sewol, perché nei giorni
Because the
successivi
days
alle
following the
catastrofi,
catastrophe, many
tantissimi
Koreans showed their
coreani
support for the
mostrarono il
families
proprio supporto
involved
alle famiglie coinvolte aderendo alla
by
campagna
joining
dei
Yellow
nastri
Ribbon
gialli.
Campaign.
Luoghi e strade della nazione
Places and roads of the country were colored of yellow hope
colorati di
ribbons.
fiocchi giallo speranza. Anche la giostra
Even the
non è stata
carousel was not
inserita a
randomly
caso.
inserted.
You'll Never Walk Alone è
You'll
una
Never Walk Alone is a show tune from a Broadway musical called Carousel.
canzone di scena di un musical di Broadway che si chiama appunto Carosello e viene eseguita in due
And it's
momenti.
performed in two scenes to comfort the main character after her husband's suicide, which was a
Per
carny.
confortare la protagonista subito dopo il suicidio del marito, che era appunto un giostraio, e poi come incoraggiamento
And as
verso
encouragement
la
for the
loro
daughter
figlia
who
che
is
sta
facing the
affrontando
last year of
l'ultimo anno di
school.
scuola. Quindi abbiamo di
So we have
nuovo
again the
tema
themes of
del lutto e
mourning
del
and comfort.
conforto. Vedete l'albero dentro
You
il
see the
cerchio
tree
di
within the
luci che
circle of light
rappresenta la
representing the
giostra?
carousel.
Simboleggia la vittima,
It
ma anche il
symbolizes the
ciclo della
victim, but also
vita.
the
E
cycle of
questo ci
life,
ricollega
and
anche
is linked to the
all'albero
tree
della
in the
scena
final
finale
scene
di
of Spring
Spring
Day.
Day. E non è tutto.
That's not
Questa
all.
canzone di scena è
The show
diventata
tune
il
is also
inno
the official
ufficiale
anthem
della
of the
squadra di
Liverpool
calcio del
FC,
Liverpool, che mostrò il suo
which
sostegno
shows
alla
support the
campagna dei
Yellow
nastri
Ribbon
gialli
campaign
con
in the
il
tweet
tweet
you
che
are
state
seeing.
vedendo. Proprio il giorno prima dell'incidente del
Just a day
Sewol,
before the
il
Sewell
Liverpool aveva
accident,
infatti celebrato l'anniversario di un
Liverpool FC had celebrated the
altro grande
anniversary of
disastro,
another
che
major
veniva fatto
disaster
come da
and had been done
tradizione,
as usual,
cantando
singing
il
the
suo
anthem,
inno
You'll Never Walk
Walk
Alone.
Sto parlando della tragedia
I'm talking about the Hillsborough Stadium
dello
tragedy.
stadio di Hillsborough che provocò la morte di
The cause of
96
this, a 96
persone,
point
anche in
bullet
questo
met
caso
many
molti dei
who were
quali
young.
ragazzi. Nel 2016 le famiglie
2016, the families of the Sewell victims met those of the
delle
victims of
vittime del Sewol
Hillsborough.
hanno incontrato quelle delle vittime di Hillsborough,
The truth shall not sink the Sewell.
unendosi in una campagna comune.
Joining in a common
Questo
campaign.
perché in
That's
entrambi i
because in
casi
both
la
cases the
stampa
corrupt
barocca
press
riportò
reported false news,
sia i
and
parenti delle vittime
the relatives of the victims fought and are
lottarono
still
e
struggling
lottano
for truth
ancora
and
per
justice.
ottenere verità e giustizia.
I don't need money, compensation, or trauma therapy, and so on. I just need the truth, that's all. Please remember, Korea's safe future is only in your hand. Please help us. What's like more crazy about this interaction is like people sitting here, it's like they just, even if you know, like you can't, like they just are showing no emotion. No emotion to this situation.
Da tutto
From all of this, we understand that the choice of the title You Never Walk Alone is
ciò
not
capiamo che la
accidental.
scelta del titolo You Never Walk Alone non è stata affatto casuale. Un altro
Another
particolare è lo
detail is the
stato della
condition of the
giostra,
carousel,
arrugginita e rovinata
rusty
proprio
and
come il
damaged like
nome
the
del
plates
Sewol
of the submerged
sommerso, che è
seawall,
stato recuperato alcuni giorni fa
which was recovered shortly after the impeachment of President
dopo la
Park.
caduta del governo. Oltre a collegarsi
In addition to referring to the title of the
al
musical,
titolo del musical, quindi, anche la giostra
the carousel
rappresenta la
symbolizes
nave
the
che
ship carrying
trasportava
the
gli
students.
studenti. Nelle scene successive del
In the next scene of the MV, I think it was represented the moments of
video,
death of
credo
the
sia stato
victim.
rappresentato il momento della morte delle vittime. JK sta
JK is dreaming. In fact, he's wearing different
sognando,
clothes.
infatti indossa vestiti diversi. Corre cercando
He runs to the exit, but something is
un'uscita,
wrong.
qualcosa non quadra, tutto trema, le tende
Everything shook, the curtains
svolazzano.
flutter.
Dopo aver attraversato
After going through the laundry room, which, as I say, symbolizes the sinking of
la
seawall,
lavanderia, che come ho detto simboleggia l'inabissamento della nave, JK incontra gli altri
JK
membri
met
del
the other
gruppo, ma qualche
members,
istante dopo
but a moment later he sees himself inside the
si
train
rivede
ferry.
dentro al treno traghetto. È come se la sua anima
It's like his soul is separated from the body, which is still on the way.
si fosse staccata dal corpo che è ancora lì sul mezzo di trasporto. Se notate,
If you notice, the train's going through a
il
tunnel, a
treno sta
passage,
attraversando un tunnel, un passaggio che simboleggia appunto il
which
momento del trapasso.
represents, precisely symbolizes the moment of passing.
La luce diminuisce.
The lightly decreases, and JK and Arm close their eyes and bow their
Vediamo
heads
JK e Rap Monster che chiudono gli occhi e abbassano la testa nel tipico atteggiamento
in
del
a typical attitude
Il
of mourning.
fiammifero si spegne.
The match goes out like the lives of the ferry's
come vedi tutti i
passengers,
passeggeri del Seawall. Ma ecco che si
but then it
riaccende,
lights back up
compaiono anche gli
again.
altri
The other
membri e
members
tutti si
appear.
ritrovano sopra
Then
la
we
villa
can
degli
see everyone in the
vestiti, che
pile
adesso
of
non è più
clothes,
negli abissi dell'oceano,
which is no longer the ocean abyss but reaches
ma
the
raggiunge il
sky,
cielo, dove in genere tendiamo a
where
immaginare
usually we
le
tend to
persone che
imagine
ci hanno
people who have
lasciato.
left.
A questo punto
At this
JK
point, JK wakes up and the whole
si
group arrives at the
risveglia e tutto il
destination.
gruppo arriva a destinazione. Questo che state vedendo
Now you are seeing a video made of the memory of the
è
ferry's
un video
victims,
realizzato in memoria delle vittime del Seawall che mi ha ricordato
which reminded
moltissimo
me
la
of the
scena
final
finale.
scene.
Le scarpe appese ad un albero
Shoes hanging from the tree represent somebody who died in tragic
rappresentano qualcuno morto
circumstances,
in circostanze tragiche e la solennità stessa della
and the
scena fa
solemnity of the scene suggests that boys are paying their
pensare
respects
che i
to a
ragazzi stanno
memorial.
fingendo il loro omaggio davanti a un monumento ai caduti. Ricordate le
Do you remember
scarpe
the shoes and
indossate
the
per
messages that I
strada?
showed
In
you?
questa possiamo
Here we can read, "My dear, your friend brought you a beautiful pair of shoes. Your mom, sister, and brother are all waiting for you."
leggere. Tesoro, un tuo amico ti ha comprato un bellissimo paio di scarpe. La tua mamma, tuo fratello e tua sorella ti stanno aspettando. La scena trasmette
The scene conveys a feeling of memory,
un sentimento
solidarity,
di
and
memoria,
comfort.
solidarietà e conforto. Del resto il
After
video
all,
non
the
è
whole
usato
MV is
niente per
designed to
questa
give this feeling.
sensazione. I colori sono tenui e
The colors are
marroni, i
soft but
luoghi sono
vivid, the
liberi e
places are
aperti,
wide and
eppure chiusi
open
ma
but
accoglienti.
cozy.
L'atmosfera ispira
The
una
atmosphere
serenità patria
inspires
come la
a quiet as snow serenity
facendo anche il ricordo di
and
dove
brings to
scendere.
mind sweet past memories like a birthday party scene. The other thing that this particular scene, like now that I've seen it a few times, kind of reminds me of is like the scenes in slow motion, and it almost like the whole thing is tilted. So it almost like would be like either A, if they were underwater of the way that things move underwater, or B, the ship moving and like things kind of like flying around and stuff like that as well.
Passati, come la scena della
Like as you saw it like kind of move like that.
I momenti che
The
state
scenes you're
vedendo
seeing now are
adesso
memories
rappresentano infatti dei ricordi, perché sia Jin che V li
because both Jin and V photograph them in order to remember them in the
fotografano per
future.
poterli riportare alla mente in futuro. L'insegna che
The
vedete fa
Melis Lighten
riferimento a
sign
questo
refers to
libro
this
che
book,
parla di una festa
which
dell'estate
talks
in
about
una
the summer
città
festival in the
utopia dove
utopian
nella
city of
strada tutti
Melis,
vivono felici. Questa
where everybody
felicità
lives happy, but the happiness
per
has a
un
price.
ragazzo, un bambino deve
A child must live segregated in a narrow place alone and malnourished. I actually ordered. They have a that book is in a series. I've never read it, and I ordered it after watching the first movie. It's a short story. It's only like 34 pages long, but I ordered it. I'm very interested in reading it.
vivere segregato in un luogo angusto, da solo e malnutrito, in una condizione che
In
lo
a
porterà
condition that
presto
will
alla
soon lead them to
morte.
death.
L'insegna in rosso che
The no
significa
vacancy
qualcuno
lighting up
morto
refers to the fact that the well-being in society
ci
is
fa
restricted
riflettere
to
su
only
come
a
il
few.
benessere nella nostra società sia riservato solo ad alcuni. Il significato del
The
racconto
meaning
di
of Mel's
Melas può
story can
essere
be compared to that
paragonato
of
a
the movie
quello del film
Snowpiercer,
Snowpiercer, a cui sia il testo
in
che
which both
di
Spring Day
splende
MV
e
and
fa
lyrics make
riferimento.
reference.
Lo Snowpiercer è un
Snowpiercer is a
treno che
train that keeps
continua a
moving around the
muoversi
Earth,
attorno alla Terra,
affected by a new ice
racconta di una
age.
nuova era glaciale. Tutti gli
The
uomini
last survivors on the
sopravvissuti si
train,
trovano
which
su
are
questo
divided into
treno,
social
che è
classes.
diviso in classi sociali. I più ricchi
The
vivono nei
rich live in
vagoni
the front
anteriori,
carriages, while
mentre i più
most
poveri
humble in the
viaggiano
last
nelle classi.
wagons.
I poveri sono
Poors are constantly oppressed by rich, who sometimes kidnap some of their kids.
continuamente oppressi dai ricchi che arrivano a rapire alcuni dei loro bambini e per questo
So they organize a rebellion in order to get to the front of
organizzano
the
una rivolta
train
con lo scopo
and
di arrivare
conquer
alla
it.
testa del treno e prenderne possesso. Ma una volta
But once there,
arrivati
they find out
scoprono che
the engine, in order to work,
funzionare, il motore ha bisogno
needs enough small children to take care of its maintenance in terrible conditions.
che dei bambini sufficientemente piccoli si occupino della sua manutenzione in condizioni terribili. Nel video Omelas
In
sembra
the MV,
trovarsi
Melis Hotel seems
simbolicamente
to be
all'interno del
symbolically
treno.
inside
Si
the
tratta
train.
della
It is a representation of those
rappresentazione dei
wagons
vagoni
reserved for the
riservati ai
rich,
ricchi che vivono sulle spalle
who
dei
live at the
poveri e dei
expense of
bambini
the poor and
sfruttati.
exploited
Entrambe le
children.
storie sono quindi una
Both stories are therefore an allegory of current capitalist
allegoria delle società
societies,
capitaliste attuali, dove chi ha il potere dispone
where the mighty are willing to sacrifice
di
innocence for their
sacrificare
own
dei meno
gain.
innocenti per il proprio tornaconto. Il che è esattamente
And this is exactly what happened with the Seoul
quello che è
accident.
accaduto con l'incidente del Seawall.
Is anyone there? Is anyone there? We'll start the work at 1 o'clock. I said 1. Don't you get it? That's not what matters. We need to do it quick. Like, they're just standing there. Please, we're begging you to save even one person. Why on earth aren't you doing anything? They are still alive. They are still alive.
Dopo la morte di ragazzini innocenti.
After the death of innocent children, there was a discharge of responsibility and a search for scapegoats. These bodies were found by a civilian driver, but the Coast Guard attributed it to Undine.
Ci fu uno scarico di responsabilità e una ricerca di capri espiatori. E così i
And so volunteer rescuers became responsible for hindering non-existent recovering operations. What do you think of the criticism that it caused confusion in rescue
volontari accorsi
operations?
in aiuto divennero responsabili di aver ostacolato operazioni di soccorso
Do you really believe that you could save
inesistenti.
lives?
Furono inventate condizioni atmosferiche
There were invented
diverse alle
adverse weather
persone,
conditions
e
to
il governo
dive,
fece
and the government even made sure that the families of the victims were painted by press as revolutionaries hungry for money. How were the water currents?
persino
Was
in
it
modo che la
fast?
stampa
It was calm as a lake.
dipingesse i familiari delle vittime come rivoluzionari affamati di soldi, nel tentativo
In an attempt to manipulate public opinion against them. So you have these family members and these parents literally at the water, knowing that their kids are in there, knowing that some of them may have an opportunity if people get to them soon enough to live, and they can't do anything. And then on top of it, and they're going through all of this, then the government and the media paint them as these crazy revolutionaries when all they want is their kids to live.
di manipolare l'opinione pubblica contro di loro. Qui
On March 30th, the victim's family once again headed to the street.
contro di loro. Qui potete vedere come un
Here you can see how a journalist is pretending to be pressed by the crowd. They headed to the Blue House demanding that the administrative rules which are made by the MOF must be discarded.
giornalista stia fingendo di essere pressato dalla calca e
Oh, like he's like,
polizia e reporter
and how reporters and police are pressing on peaceful protesters. The police blocked them, although the president said they could visit her anytime to have anything to say to her.
stiano premendo sui manifestanti del tutto pacifici. La tragedia del tutto pacifici. La tragedia
Because of that, Sewell tragedy and the Yellow
i
Ribbons
nastri gialli sono per questo diventati
have become a symbol of the struggle against Korean government's corruption.
C'è un motivo per
There is a reason why Big Hit and BTS
cui
chose to
le
address the
BTS
issues
hanno
right
scelto di
now.
affrontare questi temi proprio adesso. Negli ultimi
In the last months, many government members and President Park collaborators have been arrested
mesi
for
molti
corruption.
funzionari governativi e collaboratori della presidentessa Park sono stati arrestati per corruzione. La stessa
Park herself was interrogated in December 2016, even about his responsibility in the
Park
Sewell
è stata
tragedy.
interrogata nel dicembre 2016 anche riguardo le sue responsabilità nella tragedia del Sewol e questo
Park arrested. Park lost immunity from criminal prosecution after being impeached earlier this month, and this March was dismissed from her office and
marzo è stata
arrested.
destituita dalla sua carica e arrestata. È stata inoltre scoperta
It was also discovered the existence of a government blacklist containing the names of nearly
l'esistenza di una
10,000
lista nera
artists
governativa contenente i nomi di quasi 10.000 artisti che sono stati
who have been
discriminati
discriminated and censored for expressing subversive political
Censurati
views
per aver espresso idee politiche di sinistra o mostrato
or
solidarietà
for
alle
showing
famiglie
sympathy
delle
to the
vittime del
families of
naufragio.
shipwreck victims.
Nella
In the list, there were also the names of Snowpiercer's director and one of the main actors of the movie.
lista erano presenti anche i nomi del regista del film Snowpiercer assieme a uno degli attori principali, e questo ci spiega
And this further explains the reference to the movie in Spring Day.
ulteriormente il riferimento a questo film nel video di Spring Day. Quelle che vedete
Piercing the shooting of the protests of recent months in Seoul. That is insane.
sono le immagini delle proteste che sono avvenute in questi mesi a Seoul.
We demand that Park Geun-hye resigns.
Le luci rappresentano la speranza nel
The
futuro
light
della
represents
Corea.
hope in the future
Tutto
of
il
Korea.
paese, nonché
The whole
vari
country, as well as
artisti, hanno
various artists,
fortemente
had strongly
espresso la
expressed their
loro
opposition to
posizione
the
al
government.
governo. Nello show che state vedendo,
In the show, you are seeing rappers, instead of compete with each other, join together to attack the Park administration. Can't show the full video due to copyright
i
issues.
rapper al posto di sfidarsi tra loro
The countless deaths, missing people. I'm trying to read.
hanno attaccato all'unisono l'amministrazione Park, ricordando fra l'altro la
He's talking about the people who died to save some of the survivors. I hope even the heroes are comfortable there, where they are now. Recalling, among other things, the tragedy of Seawall.
tragedia del Seoul.
The spring is cold just like that time. How is it there? Our light will overcome their darkness. The reason my spring is still cold. The reason why my falling petals are still sad. Tear-soaked petals are spring. We are responsible for those who will not take responsibility.
Le parole di questo
The lyrics of the song doesn't remind you a bit of Spring Day?
pezzo non vi ricordano un po' il testo di
The
Spring Day?
lyrics.
Anche
Yeah.
i BTS
Even BTS and Big Hit
e la
contributed to the
Big Hit non
cause.
sono rimasti a guardare.
BTS and Big Hit Entertainment make generous donation to the families of Seawall ferry victims.
Hanno segretamente donato
They
100
secretly donated 100 million won, about $88,000, to the organization for truth and a safer society.
won, circa 80.000 euro, all'Organizzazione per la Verità e per una società più sicura, creata dalle famiglie coinvolte
Created by the
nel
families
naufragio
involved in the
Seawall.
sinking of
Nonostante la
MV
stampa non fosse
Seawall.
stata
Although the press had not been informed, the news was leaked after the
informata, dopo il
comeback.
comeback la notizia è venuta a galla. La Big Hit ha
Big Hit confirmed the donation, adding only the boys considered the issue as a personal
confermato la
matter.
donazione, aggiungendo solo che i ragazzi ritenevano la questione un affare personale. Alla conferenza
In the press conference at the Go Check Sky Dome, Rap Monster said that with the 4 tracks of You Will Never Walk
stampa,
Alone,
dopo l'uscita dell'album, Rapmaster ha dichiarato che con i 4 brani di You Never Walk Alone, i BTS vogliono
BTS wants to
mostrare
show
la
some
speranza e
hope
la
and
rinascita
rebirth of
della
youth
gioventù che
that
proviene
comes
dalla lotta
struggle and
alla
despair.
disoccupazione.
우리들도 젊은
I definitely think
사람들도
young people like
한국
us
사회의
are
미래를
capable of
생각하고
changing
결단력이 충분히
Korea's
있다고
future
생각하고
and
앞으로 더 나은
contributing to
그런
making
대한민국을
Korea a
만들기
better
위해서
society.
훨씬 그런 노력을 할 수 있다고 생각을 합니다.
Ci sono molti simboli nei
There are
vestiti
many
che
symbols in the
indossano che
clothes that they
rimandano a
wear
questi
that refer to these
concetti. La tigre
concepts.
sulla maglia di V
The tiger on the V shirt symbolizes the
simboleggia la
struggle,
lotta, mentre l'ape, oltre
while the bee, in addition to being often associated with rebirth like a butterfly and
ad essere un simbolo
phoenixes,
spesso associato alla rinascita, come la farfalla e le fenici, è anche un simbolo
it's also a symbol of industriousness and is well suited to
di
represent young
velocità e
Koreans.
si presta bene a rappresentare i giovani coreani. Il fiore blu sul maglione
The blue flower on Jimin's sweater represents the
di
memory,
Jimin rappresenta la memoria e il ricordo, e poi ci sono le ali,
and there are
l'aereo,
also
il
the wings and feathers
fiume.
of the
Si
plane.
tratta quindi di un
This
messaggio
message of
forte di
solace and
speranza
hope for
nella
rebirth of
rinascita
an
di
entire
un'intera
generation,
generazione che lotta affinché gli eroi
which is
della
struggling to
negligenza e
ensure that era's
corruzione della
negligence and
società
corruption of
non debbano
society
più
do
ricadere
not
su
affect
di
them in the
esse e su
future
coloro che
generations.
verranno. Sono infatti proprio i
In
giovani
fact,
che
young
stanno
people are the
soffrendo
ones who are
pagando a
suffering and
causa
paying more
dell'organizzazione
because of
sociale
Korea's
coreana.
social
Non a
organization.
caso il tasso
It's no coincidence that the
di
suicide rate
suicidio
among
negli
the students
studenti
of
di
this
questa
nation is one of
nazione
the
è fra i
highest
più
in
alti
the
al
world.
mondo. Alle domande riguardo i
When I asked about the references to the
riferimenti
tragedy
alle
in Spring Day,
tragedie
MV Rap
anteriori di
Monster
Spring Day,
answered,
Rapmaster ha risposto: siamo
I'm
molto
careful to
stucati
talk
nel
about the
parlare
Seawall
del naufragio del
tragedy,
Seawall, ma credo che in quanto cittadini
but
dello
as a
Stato
citizen of the country, I do believe we should feel responsible.
dovremmo sentirci responsabili. Abbiamo donato
We donated because we want to help the
perché
Seawall
volevamo
Ferry
aiutare
Tragedy
il
Project.
progetto. Dopo quello che vi ho
After what
mostrato,
I showed you, you can easily figure out why our guys are
potete facilmente
cautious.
immaginare perché i ragazzi siano cauti. Ma Rap Master ha anche
Master also said that BTS will not remain silent about social and unreasonable
detto che i
matters,
BTS non resteranno in silenzio riguardo le ragionevoli questioni sociali e che
and they will
contribuiranno
be
a lottare
joining them to breaking these problems.
contro questi problemi con la loro musica.
I don't know. I don't know, like, what's the worst part of it all. Like, the fact that there was a tragedy, the fact that they, like, while it was going on, continued to cover it up. And one of the things they didn't mention in here that was mentioned in the article was like, and seeing the pictures of the kids trying to get out and trying to break the windows, and then nobody helping. But that, like, there were other government agencies that even tried to come in and help, and, like, they wouldn't let them do it. It's like, how do you sleep? Like, how do you sleep at night with yourself? And, like, I guess this, like, makes so much more sense now in general. Like, with as much crap that's going on in America right now, we, like, have, like, what we feel is, like, a dysfunctional government and something like that. I don't think I don't believe that our government has ever gotten to the point of that type of corruption and cover up because we've been considered like a democracy for such a long time. And so we forget like how much of an impact that can have. And so it even makes more sense, I think, why people get so defensive about groups like BTS because it's like in the daily life and other things happening in the world where these things are going on, where people are just being silenced, where they're being silenced, where like there's so much political and business corruption, I guess, that it really makes sense why to be so protective then of people that are trying to stand up and do good, you know? Um, ooh, you guys are right. Oh, seeing it is on a whole nother level. I'm still glad, like I'm glad that I did this one second and not first because I felt like I had a little bit more preparation for it. Like I feel like if I had done this the first one and with like after reading the article and not being like mentally prepared for what was coming, that like I don't know that I would have been able to make it through. So I'm glad that I did it in this order. It just gives me a entirely different level of respect for them though. Because again, like this is their lives and their careers on the line that they're doing for some of these social justice issues, and they know that it doesn't necessarily make them popular, and yet they still do it because it's the right thing. And I can relate to that so much because like I talk about all the time about trying to do the right thing, even if it means like some less views, or even if it means, like this video is going to be 40 plus minutes long. And like, while I know a lot of you will watch it, like it's not the normal clickbait. Like so many people out there, so many of these reactors, I see them doing these things, and every single, you know, image on there is like, it's all like these cookie cutout things, and they're all just short and concise, and there's not a lot of feeling behind that. They don't wanna dig into deep issues like this because they could be controversial, they could get political. And I don't really give a shit about that. Like, if the people don't want to follow me because I'm pausing or because I'm not just going along to get along, like I don't care. Like that's not who I'm looking for anyway, I guess at the end of the day. But thank you all so much for being here on this journey with me. It actually made me feel so much better watching this, knowing that there was a bunch of people out there that cared about this, that there was a bunch of people out there that cared about our journey and going through this together. Um, that means a lot. It really does. And I'm so happy that I'm getting to know people from, again, not just around here, but like all over the world and getting to see and be exposed to so many different things. It's beautiful in a way to be able to do that. And I really, really, really appreciate you all for being here and putting faith in me and joining every day and liking and commenting and helping me through it and being patient with me as I learn. It's amazing. So thank you all so much. Really, really appreciate it. Don't forget, if you haven't already, please go ahead and like and subscribe below. If nobody told you they love you today, I 100% absolutely love you. You are cared for. You are appreciated. You are always welcome here. And last but not least, it was a great day to play, even if it was a sad day to play. I love you all. Thank you so much. We will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.